St. Louis has always been rich in music, culture.
Always.
Lots of musicians.
Yes.
However, maybe could use some help in the business end of music. And Josh Harris here
That's always the case,
Always.
right?
has founded STL Hit Squad for that purpose. Tell us about it.
When I moved back to St. Louis a little over 2 years ago, I had a vision and still have a vision of getting more local people involved in some of the things that I'm doing as a producer and an engineer, as a songwriter, on the East and West Coast and even internationally. So now that I've finally set up a studio space in Maplewood, I'm starting to put that into motion finally.
Okay,
And for
so wait, hold on a second. That's what you do.
That's what I do.
I thought that you were a musician.
I am.
He
Oh,
is.
I am.
He played keyboards for Seal on a European tour.
I
in
did. I toured
2008.
with Seal in 2008 for
Oh,
about
you're
4
a
months.
keyboardist.
Yeah.
So
worked
what-
with Madonna.
Really?
I did some
You've heard of
remixes.
her?
Yes, I've done a lot of what are called remixes.
Is she really like a virgin?
I did not get to meet her, but no, I don't think she is now. I think she's been past
We can
that for
prove
some
that.
time.
Yeah.
Right.
But so you were out, and then you came back to St. Louis.
So I was in New York. Well, I've lived in Chicago, Nashville, New York City, and then I was up in the New England area, north of Boston, for a while.
You know, I just want to take a minute to ask about Nashville because
Yes.
I hear a lot of musicians go there and
do.
they feel like
They do. Too many go there.
Well, they feel like they get it's not a welcoming. You think it's the Southern hospitality, and they get a cold shoulder
because so many of the people that live there now are not actually Southern.
Oh,
There's a lot of
it's the business end of it.
It is. There's been some West Coast people. There's been some East Coast people that have filtered down there.
This is a good thing. You must have both abilities. Then you have the business.
I do.
That's
a hybrid.
Both
A
sides of his
hybrid.
brain.
Are you
I do.
good
But
at
this is
math?
Yeah, I am actually.
This is what STL Hit Squad is all about.
That's right,
The
numbers.
musicians who want to stay in St. Louis yet still do business and grow revenue.
Exactly. So I'm willing to quarterback this concept, and it's something I've been thinking about for about a year now, and it was contingent upon me getting back into having a commercial studio space so that I can, have other people work with me and bring in out of town
Are you
projects.
at Smith Lee Studios?
I am running a
Great
second
place.
floor. I am
Right on Manchester.
Yes.
Perfect.
At
Yeah.
Sutton.
Dave and Barry were kind enough to take a room on their second floor and allow me to rent it.
I think
Yeah.
every
So
musician in
what
St.
do you-
Louis knows Smith Lee.
Are you like an agent for people?
No, I
Musicians?
work on mostly on the creative side. So in other words, if you came to me as a singer and said, I've got a bunch of songs I wrote on piano, I need to develop it and realize them as full productions, I would do that. I would build it up from the ground up.
But what
with
about the other business, the ugly, nasty, unpleasant part of the business?
monetizing your skill set?
Yes.
That's the $64,000 question. A lot of it has to do with the fact that most musicians are not willing to embrace how the money moves in the music industry.
Yeah.
They sort of think, well, if I'm gigging or if I'm making an album, I put it on iTunes, it'll all take care of itself, or my manager will help me take care of it. I mean, it just doesn't really work that way. You have to wear a lot of hats now. You have to understand how the money moves, and what's worth going after and fighting for.
Yeah, you and I discussed this
We
once,
did.
that when a record label, at least this is the way traditionally it has been, when a record label looks at a band, they don't just listen to their music and say, oh yeah, these are a bunch of talented guys, we can run with them. They ask, who's your manager?
Really?
Who are your people?
See, I
you're
thought
working
they
with?
would feel that they could fill that role.
Well, what's really hurt the industry in the last probably 10 to 15 years is the death of what I call artist development, talent development. So if you think about people that got signed in the 70s and 80s, they might have had a germination period, a development period where they might have said, look, we're going to throw 30, 40, 50 grand at this, and you'll do 3 or 4 songs with this producer and these musicians, and let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Now you have to hit a home run from your very first song on your very first album as a major label artist.
Yeah, it's
how do
so
you
hard for artists. It's often that, they don't even want to make a call, much less have to,
Yeah.
push
Right.
and promote.
How do you feel about the indie artist approach?
Oh,
as opposed to going with a major
Well, I
label?
think the indie artist approach is probably the only pure thing left, really. I mean, I don't want to sound like I hate major labels because I work for them and
Yeah,
I make
right.
my living off of
Sure.
off of them to some extent. But there's a different culture. I mean, it's just a difference in culture. Indie captures the spirit of the art, captures the spirit of the artist's vision much more. And in a lot of indie label situations, the label will just say, show up with it done. We love what you do. We're not going to, A&R it, try to quality control it to death, and we'll get behind it. It's just that in return, the artist doesn't receive that big marketing money,
Yeah.
the big
But in either
push.
case, the artist really has to understand the business end of it
Absolutely.
and be a part of that process.
And I don't think that people should really sign a deal until they have so much going on that they almost don't need a label.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like trying to go to a bank for a loan. They don't want to give it to you unless you have the money to cover it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Steve Martin, who is a recording artist, but
He
at the
is,
same
great
time,
banjo player.
When he was a comedian, he couldn't get an album deal until that album deal was worth millions.
Right.
I mean, nobody wanted him until
Right.
he was worth millions, and
Right.
then he got great deals.
Well, it's like
If
Rush
everyone could do
Limbaugh
that.
got turned down by Camo X until he was not
big
even
shot.
in the
Same kind of
market anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's an arm wrestling match, the entertainment business. Who has the most leverage?
Yeah,
That's all
everybody
it
wants
is.
what's already proven to
Exactly.
protect
Exactly.
their own
Yeah.
position
Exactly.
so that they
Right.
aren't the ones at fault.
But you call STL Hit Squad a collective. How is it a collective?
Basically, the way I look at it is I'm in search of who I feel are some of the top creators and top artists and writers and engineers in town. People that I know can handle having what I would call like real prime time responsibilities thrown at them, deadlines, raising the bar to a certain level with quality. And, I've met a handful of people in town that I'm starting to reach out to, and we're listening to each other's music, and I'm getting a sense of their skill sets and just thinking about how I can slot them into some of the things I'm doing.
And then what do you do for them? Let's say, somebody, I mean, it's so unfortunate. You remember when you were young.
I do.
Not that long
I was
ago,
living in the
last
Central
week.
West End.
Yes. And you're talented. You want to do something, but you're not at that point yet where
Right,
you've
right,
got anything going
right.
on.
Exactly.
And do you have to give you a percentage or what is your
No,
deal?
the way
is
that
it different?
the way that I would want to break it down is, let's say I'm just going to throw out numbers. Let's say that I'm working on an independent project. Let's say I'm working on an artist finance project, and the artist is paying me X thousands of dollars to work on one song. What I would do is maybe say, okay, I don't want to do all phases of this anymore. I'm willing to break apart part of the X thousands of dollars and bring in some local people to help me, maybe on the mixing side, maybe on programming drums.
So you're creating a team.
Exactly.
How would a musician interested in talking to you about this find you?
Hopefully they're watching and listening to this.
Yeah, well, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to joshharrismusic.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and that will there's some info about me. There's a listening section, and then there's a link to email as well.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
And best of luck with it. Let's check back with you every now and then and see how it's
I would
going.
love that. Thank you so much for having me on.
And thanks to Abusi Michelli Insurance, they're continuously working to provide the individual coverage you require. They also handle commercial life and health insurance. Call Tina Michelli at 314-832-6667.